5-Year Mission the Podcast, Episode 22.
This episode of 5-Year Mission the Podcast is brought to you by Fansets, your home for all things pop culture pin related. Head over to fansets.com and see all that they have to offer. And also stay tuned at the end of the episode for a very special offer from us here at 5-Year Mission.
By now you figured out that this is the 5-Year Mission Podcast.
Welcome to 5-Year Mission, the podcast, the only podcast hosted by a Star Trek band called 5-Year Mission. I am Andy Fark. Joining me tonight is Mike Rittenhouse, founder extraordinaire of 5-Year Mission, and then Christopher Spurgeon, a.k.a. Chris Spurgeon, guitarist, mainly keyboard player extraordinaire of 5-Year Mission.
Coco.
Oh, yeah. Joining me is Coco in the Army Ninja.
That's right.
Tall backs.
You figure out which is which.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I don't remember how that. Oh yeah, Mike was telling us his fantasy of being an Army or a
G.I. Joe Ninja.
G.I. Joe Ninja.
Your question was what we wanted to be when we grew up.
Grew up. That's right.
Oh yeah. How did we get Coco?
Was it the gorilla that does sign language? The Coco Mad thing?
I don't think so. I don't know what it was.
If it wasn't, it should be.
I don't know.
I think it was from that same episode, but I don't remember.
Oh, it definitely was the same episode because the title of the episode is Coco and the Army Ninja.
Oh, right.
We'll have to revisit that.
See if we can remember what we said.
Right now, Frankie is screaming at her speaker what we said about Coco because she's heard it like 100 times.
That's right.
So what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight
or today or whenever you're listening to this
you love
episode.
To do that.
I know. I just, it could be.
You could just say this episode.
Yeah.
Or right now.
You're the one that said tonight. I'm just making it universal. You might be driving down, driving to work in the morning and you're thinking, you know what? I could really use some 5-Year Mission, the podcast. And here we are.
Nobody
in the
says
morning.
That.
Morning
Nobody
show. Welcome to the morning show.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Anyway, what are we talking about this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast?
Tonight, we are covering Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks to be specific, the newest animated series from CBS. Of course, the Star Trek franchise has not had an animated series since the animated series back in the 70s. And that has some mixed reception.
I'm actually surprised by that, though, because... Well, maybe not. I don't know if I'm really surprised that Star Trek didn't have another animated series. I mean, I like the animated series, but it's not exactly
everyone's cup of tea.
It's surprising they didn't do a Next Generation animated series in around 2000.
Well, here's the thing about Lower Decks that I really love about Lower Decks. Is that Star Trek tends to be a little uptight, and that's okay because it's a dramatic series, and Lower Decks subverts that completely and is just goes off the rails, and I love that about it because it's still full on Star Trek, but it's something it's a way we've never seen it before, and that's what I really like about it. And I think that if they had done it for the Next Generation, it would have been, animated series 2.0. It would have been the same kind of thing, or like an extension of TNG. And Lower Decks is kind of its own animal, and I like that.
Oh yeah,
it's cool.
Which I almost think is kind of nice because it lets a whole new world breathe, but it's a world that's existing within the actual Star Trek realm.
Yeah, it's familiar.
And so there's you can get little callbacks. They can refer to other ships that are happening at the exact same time that they're on their their least important missions in Starfleet, which I think is another great thing because there's always bureaucratic nonsense that like the Enterprise doesn't have to deal with. So it's like, just send the Cerritos. They'll take care of it. They'll get all the paperwork signed, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. The
Cerritos being the ship that is the subject of Lower Decks, in case you don't know.
Just in case, because if you have not seen Lower Decks, I guess we probably should have prefaced this with a big fat spoiler alert.
Yes,
pause this.
If you've not seen Lower Decks and you don't want to know anything about it before you've seen it, go watch it. It's only, as of this recording, there are 8 episodes. 2 more to come for this season, I believe, right? An episode season.
Yep.
And so if you don't want to be spoiled, then go watch it. We'll still be here when you get back.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. This episode is not going to disappear anytime soon.
Knock out those 4 hours and come back to us and we'll discuss.
And the other nice thing about Lower Decks, because like a lot of people were so worried that like, one of the guys that Mike McMahon, who helped co-create Rick and Morty, is behind the thing, so it's not going to be family friendly. My kids are obsessed with this show.
Yeah, Ruby loves it.
Yeah, they get over here and they're like, Dad, have you watched the new Lower Decks? I was like, of course I have, but I'm going to watch it a second time with you.
My kids haven't watched it yet. My kids are a little bit younger than yours, but I don't, having watched it myself, except for a little bit of language.
Yeah,
which my kids have heard. We try to avoid exposing them to, as much as we can. But at the same time, if we want to watch something and we know there's something in there, I just say, okay, guys, there's some naughty words in here, so just don't repeat them, and just
I like that the language in Lower Decks is actually censored. And I mean, the like a dick slips out every now and then,
just like in real life.
Didn't the what's the name of the doctor?
Tana.
What?
I'm no good with Tana. Any of the names yet.
Tana, right. Doesn't Tana say shit once?
Yes.
On one episode? Okay, that's what I thought. So I mean, that's as bad as it gets. And then bleeped F words. That's
and like that's the subject matter isn't too heavy. It's not like a bunch of like dick jokes constantly, like right. Except for when as Mike put it, a dick slips.
Yeah. So what did you? I mean, when
there was the naked workout holodeck program.
Yeah, it's animated butts. I mean, how many people have not seen an animated or a statue of a butt in their lifetime?
Well. So the first episode was back in August. It was beginning of August. Because going in, I knew I was excited about it because it's new Star Trek, and every new Star Trek, I'm like, more Star Trek. You can't get enough. But going in, I was prepared to like it, but at the same time, afraid that I wouldn't, because it's so different. What did you guys, what was your first impression? I know, like, I saw that first trailer I saw a clip, and it was basically just the opening scene.
Oh, just the opening of the first.
Yeah, with
the batleth, and I laughed, and I was like, this is going to be hilarious. And I showed my son, and he thought it was hilarious. And so I was ready.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? What was your first impression?
I laughed, and I was very surprised at how far they took the humor. I wasn't expecting it to be so, what's the word?
Ribald.
Sure.
Ribald.
Like you said, one of the creators came from Rick and Morty, and a lot of the humor is like on par with that. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't dulled down, or it didn't feel like it didn't feel cheesy like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was a little worried that like with CBS with their hand in it, they might kind of try to reel them in a little bit more. But man, they've gotten away with so much on that show.
I think the fact that it's a pay service. It's on CBS All Access. I think that gives them more freedom than if it was on network CBS, which is good, I think. Because it gives
obviously,
them, I think a lot of times on a show, the creativity may be stifled a little bit just because they're concerned that they may be going too far for the censors. But if you don't have to worry about that, if you go over the line every once in a while, that's okay if it allows you to step up to that line more frequently and like really, to really nail a joke. So I think that works.
Yeah, my first impression, like you said, I saw the initial clip, and normally if it's just a trailer with like a sprinkling of like scenes from upcoming episodes, I'm all about it. But if it's just like an actual full scene clip, I'm just like, nah, I gotta avoid it. But I couldn't wait, and I watched it,
too.
and then luckily enough, it turned out to be like the very beginning of the episode. It's like, okay, I've seen this already. Like my only complaint, which they've gotten better as the episodes have gone down, is that Mariner's dialogue moves so fast in that first episode that like I had to watch it like a couple times just to kind of catch a few of the things that she was saying.
I've seen the first episode 4 times now, and even in the last time there were a bunch of lines that I had missed all the previous times. Yeah, because it's so fast.
I think a lot of the early episodes, the first few episodes, even they're very, it's like a lot of other, any other show, they're kind of trying to figure out what works, trying to find their footing, and it's a little bit manic. And so it's still enjoyable, but as the season progresses, they found their footing really quickly. I thought
they got into a real groove after like the first 4 episodes where they just kind of slowed down. They're like, okay, we know what we're doing now. We can kind of, but we don't have to edit out any like breathy pauses in between sentences. Yeah.
And they started to, the characters started to gel more. At first you just had all these characters that you didn't know, and they really, some of them knew each other, but not, but
we don't know them.
Yeah, we don't know them. And they know each other kind of, but they start to get to know each other better. And so they start to have a relationships that are much more natural, I think. Yeah. And I kind of, that may be partly the character. It may also be the actors, finding their way, the voice that they, their voice for the characters. So I think that's really cool that it has progressed that way, because it gives, it really gives it momentum,
You see on like TNG, like the eventual friendship between like Geordi and Data, like really, really progress. And you see, the rivalry between like Quark and Odo on DS9 or like
O'Brien and Bashir.
O'Brien and Bashir, EMH and 7 and 9. And, like you get to see those friendships. But it seems like in this very first season, you see like, Mariner and Boimler kind of like getting that, even though like they annoy the living crap out of each other, they're still becoming like best friends, especially when it comes to the choo-choo dance. And then of course, my favorite little coupling so far has been like Tindy and Rutherford, just because it's so
Rutherford,
genuine and sweet.
Speaking of characters, who's your favorite character?
So far, I'm gonna have to go with Boimler, but what I really, really want to see more of is Lieutenant Shax, the security officer.
Yeah, he's funny. Yeah. Who does his voice?
That is, his name is Fred Tatashori. People that have kids may know him as the voice of Mr. Grouper from the television show Bubble Guppies.
Oh man.
Which is so weird to think about, because my kids grew up watching Bubble Guppies. I was like, that's not him. And he was also I can't remember which voice he did, but he was also in both of the Kung Fu Panda movies too.
Oh, okay.
So big voiceover guy.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I love Boimler too. I love Jack Ransom.
Oh God, Jerry O'Connell.
Not only do I love Jerry O'Connell's great.
Yeah.
But his character he's so like he's almost like a parody of Riker.
Absolutely.
He's such the overt ladies man, but he's so inept, and it's I love it. Boimler is great because he's just so relatable. Jack Quaid does his voice. Have you guys seen The Boys?
Oh yeah.
And like he's the relatable character on that show too. I mean, even though
it's so weird because I've been watching the second season of The Boys, and so I've been kind of going back and forth between these two, and knowing that he's like the voice of Boimler, it's just so weird. The contrast of these two shows, it's so weird that he's that character.
Yeah, well, and he was also in the second and third Hunger Games movies too.
Oh yeah, you're right. He was.
Yeah.
I never saw those.
See, I did my homework.
Good job.
I have a whole pad here. Well, yeah, this is Mike. Do you have a favorite so far?
I'm so bad with the names.
I can tell you. I got them all written down here.
Yeah. What's the main girl's name?
Mariner.
So for me, it's probably a tie between Boimler and Mariner.
Okay.
I like both characters, and I especially like their interaction with each other.
Yeah.
You know what? I like their relationship with Boimler and Mariner. How here's what I hope they don't do. I hope they don't try to
love story.
Do the love story.
No.
Well, okay. Addendum to that. It would be funny if they did an episode where at some point they got together and then realized this is terrible and then never spoke of it again,
Yeah. And just like, can we just go back to the way it used to be? And then they get like zapped with like some memory eraser, like computer.
Or they don't say anything. They just walk away. It's the end of the episode and we never hear about it ever again.
The best would be because they always do like the little Easter egg, like callback things. Like they do the whole relationship thing. And then like, they're like recording like a log about it to like tell people about it. Be like, this was a weird week. And then at the end, they pull a Cisco and be like, computer, delete log.
Was it the episode prior to the last episode where Boimler had the girlfriend?
That was like episode 4 or 5, I think.
Oh, was that Cupid's errant arrow?
Cupid's errant arrow. Yeah.
Oh man, that was. I so enjoyed that it was almost like a love triangle between Mariner and Boimler and his girlfriend. And it was so funny, man. I really
trying to steal my boyfriend.
That episode was great.
What?
Oh yeah. Cause he had that, it was like a parasite, the parasite
attached to his head.
I love that he introduces the girlfriend and Mariner immediately says computer in program.
Like she can't believe. Well, and the great thing is it's not, Boimler doesn't get closer to his girlfriend. Mariner gets closer to Boimler's girlfriend, which is fun, which is typical of Boimler because he's like the guy that never wins. Yeah,
he's just a lovable loser.
Yeah,
and it's great. I mean, he's obviously going to go places in Starfleet. I mean, he's a little inept right now, but I chalk that weird energy up to just him being like an ensign that just wants to like get to the top as quick as he can, but also, loving every second of doing like all the crazy grunt work that goes along with being an ensign,
which is such the polar opposite of Mariner, which is why they go together so well, because Mariner she could be a lieutenant. She could probably be. She got offered the number one position on her friend's ship a couple episodes. Well, she became a lieutenant for a while, and she but she just doesn't. That's not what she wants. She likes being on the lower decks because she's able to be a slacker, and that's like what she wants to do. And I think
I like when they promote her to lieutenant that the first order of business was discussing
the punishment.
What kind of chairs that they're going to have in the conference room.
Well, that's the other nice thing about her character is that you find out in the first episode that the captain is her mom, and apparently the admiral is her dad. So she's like, I don't know what to do with this kid, but you got to do something. Funny? Oh, I'm sorry, this communication's breaking up.
That they introduced that in the first episode, and then after that, they really don't point at that very much. I mean, she calls, her mom calls her, Mariner, or, she calls her mom Captain, but they don't really focus on that, which is funny because I almost find myself forgetting that they're related at all.
Yeah, well, they really play it up, obviously, with the whole mother-daughter relationship in the episode "Moist Vessel," which I think is a great episode title too. But yeah, they have the whole like mother-daughter talk and everything after she like jokingly promotes her up to lieutenant as a punishment.
Yes.
I like the brig. Throw me in the brig. Like, nope, we're going to get her back another way, making her do the boring work. And then they have the whole mother-daughter heart-to-heart. She's like, and like, why don't you ever work this hard? Well, you just get off my back and let me do my job. I'd do it.
Well,
and it was
that
just a very mother-daughter like argument.
That was a really good Tindy episode too, because you had the mother-daughter, dynamic, but then you had Tindy, who doesn't really have a connection. She's becoming closer to Rutherford, but she kind of, gravitated towards this cult, really.
Oh yeah, because the guy had been like practicing religion to ascend to become pure energy, and then it just turned out to be an excuse to have people find him interesting.
Yeah, and she was, man, the end of that episode when he like
the koala
ascends.
I didn't realize that becoming pure energy would hurt so badly. Why is there koala in the sky? Oh, why is it smiling? It shouldn't be doing that.
Oh man,
my kids cracked up at that. When I first got this shirt, they walked to the door and they saw I was wearing it. They immediately were like, "Why is it smiling?"
Oh, is that what that is on your shirt? I couldn't see it.
Well, that's him. That's the character ascending into pure energy. I got signed up for the Lower Decks T-shirt club, so you get a T-shirt per episode. And they send them to you like 2 at a time. And like the cool thing about them is that it like each one of them isn't just like Star Trek Lower Decks and then just like a little nod to it. Every single one, and like with the exception of the very first one that just says like USS Cerritos, they're all just images. It doesn't say Star Trek or Lower Decks anywhere on the shirt. It's just like an image, so people will look at it and be like, "What the hell is that?" So they're pretty great, and I can't wait to see what they do for all the rest of the episodes with the artwork, because Titmouse is doing a great job with the artwork on these shirts.
How many shirts do they have so far?
There's going to be 11. They said they put them up. I think it's like 24 hours after the episode first airs, and then once they're sold out, they're sold out.
Where can you get those?
I believe there is at titmouse.com. I don't quote me on that though, because I just went through the Star Trek.com's website, and then it just linked me over there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's titmouse.com is porn.
I'm just
kidding.
I was gonna say, I was like, wait, no, that's the animation studio.
No, it's nothing actually.
Okay. Yeah, titmousestuff.com.
Titmousestuff.com. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they just said they just released. Oh, nice! It's a bunch of Romulan ships surrounding the Cerritos for the newest episode for Veritas.
Now that episode, I like the way they have the model, but it's Shax's. If you can click on the different pictures.
Oh yeah, they do that every I will say with Lower Decks, the marketing for Lower Decks is fantastic. between like the t-shirt club at titmousestuff.com, and also with CBS All Access, where they have like an image from like that week's episode, but it's always like Tindy taking a selfie with like some kind of action going on in the background.
Yeah.
It's like so good. Like I love it.
Oh man, they've got the Badgie.
The dog.
Badgie.
Yeah, that's the other
He's got blood on him.
thing. It's going to be releasing 2 versions of the Badgie pins.
Oh man, who is?
Fan sets.
Fan sets.
They're
Hey,
gonna-
we know
they're gonna-
fan sets.
They're gonna do a happy Badgie, and then they're gonna do the angry. Like I'm gonna eat. Okay, what is that? I'm gonna eat your heart.
I don't.
Oh no, I'm gonna rip out your heart and burn it in a fire. The angry Badgie.
Oh, Badgie.
Which again, Badgie is a fantastic character that we got introduced to, and of course, all that Badgie was voiced by Jack McBrayer, which you may remember from 30 Rock
Yes.
and various other random cartoons that he's done.
And if you've listened to our podcast before, you know that I'm not a fan of holodeck episodes. This has changed my mind. Badgie has made holodeck episodes okay for me.
You got it.
Man, these are some good t-shirts. It sucks that they're all sold out.
Oh, and because they released them for like a limited time, and like they have like limited quantities, and like once they're sold out, they're never available again.
No. The group one, that light blue one with
the cast on the front.
Oh man, I love that one.
Well, that one, I think that one's actually available. I haven't seen that one come through. That might be the bonus shirt because when you sign up for the
it
t-shirt
says sold out,
collective,
it says it's $180, so that can't be.
Yeah, I'll have it, and the shirts are so soft too. Good.
How do you
Lord.
get into this t-shirt collective? How do you subscribe?
You had to get in on it. They were only offering I think 2,000 subscriptions or something like that.
You know, I thought we were friends. You don't tell me anything.
I'm just quicker than you at things.
The only one that's available is the Romulan one. That's like my least favorite one of all of them.
Yeah.
I'll just wait until tomorrow, after tomorrow's episode, see what they get next.
Yeah, they put up the image pretty quickly after the episode airs. So yeah, I would check like every couple hours after the episode premieres at like midnight.
Yeah,
and then see what the design is.
Cool. They've got some really good t-shirts.
Yeah, they're not messing around with Lower Decks, man.
Nice. Speaking of that episode, I know
which one?
This is the
Veritas?
one that Mike hasn't seen, Veritas.
Yeah,
but that was so good.
Yeah, back away, Mike. Plug your ears.
It's okay.
I just love what okay, so they brought back a character.
Oh, he's gone now. You can say it.
They bring Q in.
Oh, it's so good too.
Q was in that episode, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he had like two scenes.
Yeah,
I was a little worried that from the preview that they were going to really overuse it to make a full Q episode, but just this. It
was just enough Q.
Oh my god, it was so good, and of course it was voiced by John Delancey, which made it even better.
But the whole trial, or what seemed to be a trial,
that was a very Star Trek-y episode.
Man, it was. But the way that but what happens in the episode is so great, and it's so in line with what this show is doing. Mm-hmm. But Boimler has this great speech, and it's like he has this great speech, and it's completely subverted by the fact that what he's talking about, it's completely not what's going on. Nope. And nobody gives him credit for it because of, well, that's not true, because the captain, they get commendations for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still, it's really, I thought it was a really, really smart episode.
Yeah.
Star Trek that.
Now, with you mentioned Q in this episode. I wish Mike would come back because he needs to weigh in on this as well. What Lower Decks does great, I've heard some people complain about it, but I personally love it, and I know a lot of people that do love it. Is they bring back so many Star Trek Easter eggs, like random stuff in the background from like Romulan ale and weird batleths and mechleths and references to the salt vampires and stuff like that. Is there one like weird Easter egg, like a weird callback like that stood out that you had to kind of like look and be like, that's the thing from the thing?
Oh man, when you mentioned the salt vampire, wasn't that was
that was in this past episode?
Yeah,
Cerritos.
that wasn't that Ransom. He was like picking this girl up
hitting on the girl in the bar.
He's like, it's a salt vampire. He's like, whatever.
They haven't existed in like 200 years. Salt vampire.
Oh man, it's just.
Well, in this same episode, there was a Gorn wedding, which is the first time you saw you. Well, okay, I was about to say it's the first time we got to see more than one Gorn at a time, but we got to see more than one Gorn at a time on Enterprise, though.
Yeah, right.
Which is still weird. They were CGI and weird.
Did we? I thought we only saw the one Gorn.
I thought there were like 2 or 3 on the.
I think they just beamed the one Gorn over.
Was it because one Gorn for that episode in CGI was enough?
Yeah.
We're not here to talk about Enterprise, though. Mike, I asked it while you were not listening to our discussion about the latest episode. But do you have like a favorite weird little callback or Easter egg from any of the episodes that really, really stood out to you?
There's so many of them. I mean,
they're chock full. Yeah,
every episode is packed full. When she's trying to figure out if Boimler's girlfriend is some kind of a parasite or just like some kind of creature or something,
another alien race.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like in the background and like
the little cork board with the red string connecting all the tacks.
And it has like, I mean, there's a salt vampire on it, and then there's like
wasn't the Borg Queen back there?
Yeah, there's like a couple other things like that. That whole board was pretty awesome. Mariner makes a lot of references to a lot of stuff. It's pretty cool. But you know, probably the one that made me smile the biggest was the episode where they created the Boimler effect or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it jumps to way in the distant future, and they're teaching the kids about the Boimler. And then she's like, and then the other person that we want to talk about today, who's probably the most important person ever in Starfleet, Miles O'Brien.
The big gold statue. And I was like, because it's true. DS9 would have blown up long ago if it wasn't for O'Brien. He kept that station afloat, I guess.
It would have never even made it to the wormhole.
Aloft. There we go. That's true, because they had to go and plant those mines. How else were they going to get there?
So who could they? What timeline is this in? I mean, not
this is like to TNG timeline.
Okay, but like after Nemesis.
Yeah, this is like post Nemesis TNG.
So they still could have lots of cameos.
Oh yeah, they can have all kinds of cameos,
and you know they will, which is going to be great.
Yeah,
I noticed. No, I haven't. So I looked up the cast so I could remember names, and I noticed that there is a person here who's not LeVar Burton, who's credited as Geordie LaForge. So I thought that was interesting. I wonder if somewhere in the next couple episodes there will be a Geordie cameo, but it's not going to be.
I would be very surprised if they did like a lot of dialogue with a character like that without getting the actual
original
actor.
Voice.
Yeah. It's probably like a quick like Family Guy cut to Geordie, and then he's probably just like, huh? And then it cuts back. Like that's probably like what it'll be.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, I mean, I would guess that we'll be seeing within the next couple weeks, and Kurtwood Smith is on the roll call here too.
Saw that. Yeah.
Nice.
Red Foreman. Yeah.
Yeah.
As is Haley Joel Osment. I don't know if
Yep.
he's actually been on there yet or not.
Yeah. He was Lieutenant O'Connor.
Which character was that?
I can't remember the name of the episode at the top of my head. I unfortunately did not write it down because I'm a dummy. I want to say it was in Envoys.
Is
second episode.
Okay, so early on.
Yeah, and then of course the Klingon that Mariner was Mariner and Boimler were transporting down to the Starfleet headquarters down there was actually voiced by J.G. Hertzler.
Right.
I saw that.
The episode, one of the episodes I just watched today, so it would have been episode probably 7, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was episode 6, had a character in it that was the captain of the other ship, and that sounded like Hertzler. So did he voice that character also?
No.
Man, that sounded just like him too. I was gonna.
He only has Hertzler only has one voice credit for this first 10 episode run.
I wonder who that was.
Oh, O'Connell was the guy that ascended to the higher plane. That was Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That sounds like him.
That's cool.
And then
that
we also
was
had
pretty funny.
And speaking of Community, but Boimler's girlfriend Barbara was voiced by Gillian Anderson from Community.
Really? Yeah, but Britta,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course the Ferengi that Mariner had hired to fool Boimler.
Yeah.
And make him look like a hero. That was actually Tom Kenny.
That was an early episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Envoys or something.
Yeah, but in case you don't recognize the name Tom Kenny, he is on one of my favorite comedy sketch shows of all time, Mr. Show. But most people probably know him as the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Who was he on Mr. Show? I mean, I know there's 50 sketches.
Sketch show.
But I'm trying to think what he looks like.
He looks like SpongeBob SquarePants.
Do you remember the sketch Operation Hell on the Earth, where it was all the different races that were gonna drop a bomb on some city, and then they were gonna divide up America to where one coast where all the Jews were going to be, and where all the blacks were going to be, and where all the homosexuals could be. Tom Kenny is the one that says instead of dropping a bomb, maybe they can just maybe play some really loud music from the back of a van, like the Gap bands. You really dropped a bomb on me.
Okay, now that you said the line, I remember that.
But see, that's the great thing about this cast. Tawny Newsome, I've been a fan of for years, mainly because of her podcast appearances. Because she has a podcast on it called Yo, Is This Racist? And then she and Paul F. Tompkins are actually the new hosts of the official Star Trek podcast, The Pod Directive, which is a fantastic show so far. There are only 3 episodes in. It's great so far. But Tawny Newsome, you might also know as from Space Force, the newer Netflix show, and she was also on an episode of the newest iteration of The Twilight Zone, in a great episode where she her sister became a pop star by getting a magic coin. And of course, we already talked about Jack Quaid from The Boys and Hunger Games as Boimler. Noelle Wells, who plays Tindy. Let's see, she was actually a Saturday Night Live cast member, and she was also on this Netflix show Master of None. Eugene Cordero, again, he's been in with a bunch of the podcasts that I listen to, especially the improv podcasts like Spontanea Nation. But he was also possibly, but he was also in an episode of The Mandalorian.
Oh,
he was one of the villagers in episode 4. His name was Stoke.
Oh, okay. I do recognize him.
One of the weirder ones that a nice little callback is Dawn Lewis, who plays Captain Freeman. People my age, our age, probably remember her from a Different World, the Cosby Show spinoff. She was also in Dreamgirls, and one of my favorite movies of all time, I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Yeah,
I love I'm gonna get you, sucker.
made by the Wayans brothers back in the day.
Yeah.
So funny.
And then Jerry O'Connell, we kind of already touched on. Of course, one of my all-time favorite movies, Stand By Me, as Vern.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was in Sliders, which I think is an underrated series too.
He's a really good podcast guest. I've listened to him on podcasts. Yeah. He's got good stories. He just seems like a naturally, just genuinely nice guy.
He's also really funny.
He is really funny. Yeah. He's got very good comic timing.
What I think is hilarious about the casting as him as like the number one on this ship is that he is also married to Jerry O'Connell is married to Rebecca Romaine, who plays number one on Discovery, and then soon to be what was it?
Strange New Worlds.
New Worlds, yeah. So a number one is married to a number one.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see in these kind of meta cartoon shows where they have celebrities animated into the show. Mm-hmm. What I would like to see is Star Trek celebrities animated. So like Denise and Michael Okuda animated in, as like working on like a bridge panel or something.
Yeah.
They're an ops somewhere.
Yeah, that would be
repairing it like an L-Cars panel.
Just, an Easter egg for those of us who would understand who it was. Yeah. Give them a couple lines.
Or like a guy with a hat and a blue goatee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice little Ira. Yeah.
Yeah. See, they need to do. And I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. They've probably done some things already that we just haven't even noticed.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Here, one second. Let me finish rounding out the cast here. Dr. Tana, the cat doctor, that is Gillian Vigman. She hasn't really done too much voice work, but she was in Step Brothers and The Hangover. And I honestly do not remember her characters from those.
Yeah,
I recognize her.
Yeah, the last of the main cast that I have down is Paul Scheer, who I'm a big fan of anyway, who plays the Lieutenant Commander Billups, who's in charge of engineering. But
they haven't used that character much.
No, but he pops up every now and then. He was in this past episode a pretty decent amount, but everyone probably knows him from The League as Andre. Yeah. But then he has a great podcast called How Did This Get Made, where he and his wife basically review movies, but they watch like the worst movies that they could possibly watch, like Lifetime movies and like weird ones like Jingle All the Way and stuff like that. It's pretty great. But yeah, and I'm just waiting to see what they do with these last two episodes that they have coming up, because by the time this particular episode comes out, we'll be 9 episodes in, so I'm not sure what to expect from episode 9 all that much yet. Yeah. But they've been kind of killing it, and I'm already assuming they're going to leave us with like a season cliffhanger, because I know they're already hard at work on season 2.
Yeah,
and I really hope the show endures, because you look at you go to IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and that kind of thing, and they're they're in the 60% to 70% range, which I really think it deserves better than that.
Oh no, it definitly does. I have an explanation for this.
I wonder how the what the viewership looks like, as for like how many people watch it, and I don't know how they keep track of that these days,
especially streaming and everything,
streaming services. But I'd be really interested, because this is a show that I want to see evolve and see what they do with it, because I think there's a lot to mine here, and it has, just like every Star Trek show, it really has room for growth, and they always start small, and they just get bigger and bigger and really incorporate a lot of interesting. I mean, I think every iteration of Star Trek brings its own voice to Star Trek, and this obviously does. It's drastically different than what we've seen before, but also we get little iconic elements in each series,
Mhm.
and I'm interested to see what kind of iconic elements that are brought up with Lower Decks, and I really hope that it gets to continue to grow.
Well, see, that's the thing with like the current iterations of Star Trek that we have going on between Discovery, Picard, and now Lower Decks, is that there is a very vocal minority out there that are all like, we need to fire Kurtzman. Kurtzman Trek sucks. JJ Trek sucks. So they've been, if you go onto a lot of these message boards, you will see people encouraging others to like go and leave like super negative reviews on like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and Amazon and everything. And it's just like I said, it's this vocal minority. Because like most of the stuff that I see online are positive reviews between all three of the new iterations of the shows. I mean, especially Lower Decks, I think has been received very well. Same thing with Discovery. Picard was a mixed bag, but I know a lot of people watched it just because, it's Picard.
Right.
So of course they're going to watch, but there's campaigns out there to like bring down all these scores. And then of course, all these same people be like, well, go look at the Rotten Tomato scores. And people are hating this and nobody's watching it. You just need to fire Alex Kurtzman. But no, it's people like Doomcock and all these YouTubers that, oh yeah, that's the dude's name. He's a big giant douchebag. He has no clue what he talks about, and it spreads fake news about Star Trek.
It's an appropriate name.
Oh, it's a very appropriate name. There's apparently rumors out there that he's also a white supremacist. So
Neat.
There we go. But yeah, it's everyone complaining about forced diversity and all this crap and Mary Sue's and everything. It's like, dude, you got to get over yourself. You obviously haven't been watching Star Trek at all since whatever age you started watching Star Trek at.
Well, and I mean, Star Trek has always been a show that I think there's always been a stigma against Star Trek because it's got that, it's a nerd show, it's just for geeks. And so a lot of people turn their nose up at it without even giving it a shot. And which is sad because I think that a lot of people who may not like the central Star Trek, maybe they don't like some of the series that are more dramatic and serious, but I think they'd really, if they lean more towards comedic fare, I think that they would really enjoy this, even if they don't get a lot of the references.
Some of the references, yeah.
So, it's, I jumped on Rotten Tomatoes and it's, the critic consensus is fun, but not very bold. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because like I said at the beginning, it was a little bit helter skelter and they're just trying to find their footing. And I think the season as it's progressed, they've really started to do that. And just like every other Star Trek,
just like any show, any show in general.
Yeah, exactly. Especially Star Trek, like every single series, it just gets better. There's definitely a bell curve for Star Trek shows, except for maybe DS9, which just, goes straight up. But I think that, if they are able to stick with it, that they'll really find that groove. And I think it'll just get better and better.
I completely and totally agree, especially, with the more and more like random guest stars that they keep on bringing in from especially Trek alum. Yeah. I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger and better.
Yeah.
Well, and for those of us who already enjoy it, it's even,
icing on the cake.
It's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. I know that it's, I mean, I was just really looking forward to this show and I've been really happy with it. And so all new Star Trek I look forward to, but
the great thing is that the guy that created this show, Mike McMahon, was a huge Trekkie already, like coming into the show. He actually ran the Twitter account. I think it's just called like TNG Season 8.
Yeah.
And it was just like quick little synopses of like what each episode would be. But hearing him on other podcasts and like reading interviews with him, he knows his stuff and he is like excited to be part of this. I mean, especially same thing with like Tawny Newsome, like she holds her own more, like she could outwit most Star Trek fans that I know personally with like her crazy knowledge of Star Trek.
Well, it's obvious that the people making the show have a love for Trek, and it's they're not just starting from scratch and making up their own stuff. I mean, the references go pretty deep.
Oh God,
like stuff that you have to know Star Trek to have made that reference.
Yeah, they're gonna have a night terrors call back, and then we'll know.
Yeah.
Oof. Hopefully, well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of uncensored over there, so I don't know.
Actually, in the episode where Boimler starts glowing from the transporter, and he goes to that place that has all those different like creatures and stuff. Well, there's that one that's just like a big lizard looking thing. I thought for a minute that they were going to make a Threshold reference.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't go there, but I mean the opportunity was like right there.
I wonder if that's what the intention was, and they just didn't make it overt. They just put it there and said, you know what, if you know, you know.
Right.
What's great about in the background of that same episode, which is called Much Ado About Boimler.
Yeah.
All the little patients that they have sitting around. If you noticed, one of the ones in the background, one guy has a regular sized body and then a giant moon-shaped head, like a crescent moon-shaped head. Do you get that? Do you guys get that reference?
Well, like Mac
Tonight from McDonald's. Yeah. Do you remember who was inside of that costume?
No.
Doug Jones.
Oh,
was it
really?
Super subtle reference.
Wow.
See, that's how deep some of these weird ass references go on this show, and it shows how much they just want to mess with you.
That's crazy. Didn't they have a Trip Tucker reference in one of the episodes?
They did reference him in one. Yeah,
I thought they did.
Because
being so handsome or something.
No, they should mention something about like, man, even like Trip Tucker got pregnant.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because they were talking about like people having kids on like starships or something.
That's
and then they brought up Tucker as an example of people getting pregnant. I was like, that's perfect. They could have mentioned Keiko O'Brien as an easy out with that. Like when Worf delivered Keiko and Miles' baby. Nope. Trip Tucker pregnant.
Yeah.
From sticking his hands in a bowl. Well, on that note, on an Enterprise note, hi, Jim Morehouse.
Again, how do we keep going back to Enterprise?
Because it's awesome.
Because Enterprise is underrated.
What?
Because Enterprise is underrated, and it ended too soon.
Well, be that as it may, it's okay.
Enterprise is underrated. Voyager is overrated.
Aww.
If this microphone wasn't so pricey, I'd drop it. On that note, we'll see you guys next time here on 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Say goodnight, kids.
Good night, kids.
Good night, kids.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
We have officially launched the 5-Year Mission Patreon. On there, you can see posts with pictures and videos of behind-the-scenes shenanigans with the band and the podcast. There are different levels you can sign up for, where you'll get exclusive merch and videos and unreleased tracks and demos and other stuff from the band and the podcast that you wouldn't normally get if you didn't follow us on Patreon. The different tiers you get to choose from go from ensign all the way up to admiral, and one of the perks of being an admiral is that you get to be a producer on this podcast. This week's producers are Neil Carpenter, Debbie Rinke, Helen Lake, Carol Jones, Steve and Frankie Palopoli, Madison Rachel Jones, Becky and Roxy, and of course, Jim Morehouse. So head over to the 5-Year Mission Patreon right now and sign up as an admiral, and your name could be listed at the end of the next episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Just go to patreon.com/5-Year Mission. That's the number 5-Year Mission.
Fansets.com is your home for all things pop culture pin related. I know I start off every single ad like that, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Coming brand new this month from your friends at Fansets is the continuation of the Delta series featuring the Lower Decks comm badge in regular and mini Delta. Also, the continuation of the Women of Trek series featuring Hoshi Sato from Enterprise. Also, a new character pin from Discovery of Lieutenant Bryce. Also available is the Voyager 25th Anniversary Master Set. This thing is gorgeous. Get your hands on it. And of course, a little preview on Twitter from them. Badgie is coming. Badgie from Lower Decks in a regular and an angry pose. Oh, I'm going to be spending my hard-earned money on that one. But hey, if you want to spend your hard-earned money, head over to fansets.com right now, fill up your cart, and at the checkout, put in the discount code 5-Year Mission. That is the number 5, and then all caps Year Mission, 5-Year Mission. You will get 15% off your entire order. Fansets. Our pins have character, and we thank our friends at Fansets for sponsoring our show every single time we put one out. One more word out of you, please.
One more word?
That's horrible. That's old hack crap. Better than that. One more word out of you.
See ya.
That's 2 words.
You're just going to have to, this is Mike. You just got to take what you can get.
Bye.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5-Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net. And also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
5-Year Mission, the podcast, is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.